Hey, welcome to the Thursday night edition of Rock Down Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Will Rock, with my co-host here, Arizona Andy. Andy, say hi to everybody.
What's up, everyone? Good evening.
Hey, we wanted to get into a little bit of Jeff Okudah talk tonight and really explain what we feel is happening now with the Detroit Lions and heading into the draft here in a couple of weeks. How impactful this trade really is. How does it set the tone with Holmes and Campbell and what they're trying to build in Detroit? And really, what is Holmes trying to build? He's kind of bringing us to different conclusions every week of where this team is headed. And now it's kind of back to that same gut feeling. In at least my opinion, I feel like the Lions are going to go after cornerback heavy in this draft. But first, we'll talk about Jeff Okudah, and he was traded to the Falcons for a 5th-round pick. The Lions did okay here. They cut bait on somebody that's been an underperformer, underwhelming. He was a 3rd overall pick coming out of OSU, and he just hasn't done what he was supposed to do. He's been injured way too often, hasn't been able to play with a consistency about him. And I think finally Holmes, now this is his 3rd first-round pick that he's dumped in as many off seasons. He's really setting the tone in that if you're not going to perform and you're not going to perform well, we're going to cut bait and we're going to move on and we're going to build the team our way. So, Andy, what do you got to say about the Jeff Okudah trade? How do you feel about it? How did the Lions do? And where do we go from here?
Well, I like the Okudah trade. I honestly thought he would have stayed around primarily because of his familiarity with the defense that we have as it is. We do save some cap space by getting rid of him. Well, I think it was about $5.5 million against the cap we have now. So I don't hate the trade. I'm not going to say I absolutely love it. I think maybe I kind of was in favor of keeping him around for one more year, kind of like the play it and prove it. But at the same time, we are cornerback heavy now with the 3 that we've signed. I think Okudah would have been – he definitely fell down the the depth chart by bringing in Sutton and Mosley and Gardner-Johnson. Those are 3 phenomenal corners that we got. So I think the back end were fine. So getting rid of Okudah is not going to affect us very much. 5th-round pick, quite honestly, with his history of injury and, kind of his average play, I think we got the best what we could for him. I could never have seen us getting a 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st round for him. There was no way. So I don't hate the trade. I think this is just more of what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, this is just more of their way of moving forward into the future. What they're really planning to do, Will, you got me. I'm actually at a loss for what the real plan is here. I think it's good. I trust what he's doing. We'll kind of see. I mean, draft's only 2 weeks away, so I'm interested to see what he's got in store for us with the Okudah trade, because I don't think you trade a player like that and sign 3 corners if you're not going to go at least front heavy or even more back heavy as we are. I don't know how you feel about that.
So, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, and there's, Holmes is a mystery guy. He has everybody guessing right now in the league. There's been some talk of the Lions wanting to trade up to the number 3 spot, and we'll touch on that in a minute. I don't want to go there just yet. But what I think Holmes is setting up is he's definitely playing at a high level chess match that we have not seen in Detroit from any of the general managers that we've had for at least 20 plus years, if ever. So what Sheila Hamp and Chris Spielman, Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes are putting together, it's incredible to watch. It's even more fun to watch it unfold. But here we are with the mystery. The mystery is Brad Holmes fanning smoke signals out there to the league, and he's saying, hey, I'm going to try to move up to that 3rd round pick because there's somebody I like. And by the way, I had a conversation with Jared Goff in the offseason. We told him we need firepower behind him. So we need to find somebody in that room. We don't have anybody in that room behind Jared. So I'm going to plant seed number 1. Seed number 1 is we're going after a quarterback because I spoke to my leader and he's okay with that. Seed number 2 is, you go out and you go cornerback heavy, which means now I'm not taking a cornerback. I don't need one. I'm not taking a safety. I don't need one. I just brought in CJ Gardner, who plays both ways. and Sutton and Mosley, who, I mean, they're going to be dominant. If they can all hit the field at the same time, they're going to be dominant.
Absolutely.
So then you cut bait with Okudah and you gain a 5th-round pick, which the Lions were desperate to have. There's a lot of valuable options in the 5th round. And with Holmes' ability in the last couple of drafts, 6th round, he's nailed James Houston. He also hit with Rodrigo in the 6th round last year. So, this pick's even better than that. I mean, he's going to be able to find somebody like a Stetson Bennett or a Kobe Turner or somebody with that 5th round that, Kobe actually, he'll probably be gone in the 4th, if not even the 3rd, but he'll find somebody with some value. And we've seen it happen for the last 2 seasons where he's finding value that nobody else is. And he's putting them into a starting rotation, which is insane. You just don't see that very often. So he's sending out the smoke signals, right? He's dropping seeds. Seed number 1, I'm going after a quarterback. Seed number 2, now I'm not taking a quarterback or a cornerback. Seed number 3 is, well, we might want to move up to 3. Well, what's that 3? A quarterback, defensive tackle, or an edge rusher, right? So he's got everybody guessing. It's a mystery. Nobody knows what's going on. What do you think he's doing?
I honestly, I think we've talked about this. I've given it some thought. I have a gut feeling he might trade up to 3. I don't think there's a reason for it. After you and I talked, I actually kind of thought about it a little bit more. I don't think he's actually going to trade up to go to 3. Because what do we say? He's got the first 5 in the top 85. I mean,
top 81.
Top 81 draft.
Top 81.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of options. I definitely think he's faking people out with something. I think he's got something brewing. I'm a firm believer they should just sign Teddy Touchdown Bridgewater as the backup, because I don't want to see them take a quarterback in the 1st round. Maybe 3rd round, 2nd round even maybe. I think 1st round, I really believe that this defense needs a little bit more work. Personally, if I'm going to take anybody in the 1st round, if he's available, I'm taking Will Anderson as an edge rusher. Put him on the other side of Aiden, because you've already stacked the defensive backs. I think we're just fine. I still think we could go for a corner, sometime in the draft. I wouldn't be against it, but I think you really got to make it front heavy. You've got to put another edge rusher there. If they were to go quarterback, I'm sorry, I really don't want them to. I would be a little mad about it, to be honest. I think Goff is the guy. I think you need to bring in Teddy Bridgewater on a nice deal, because I think Goff is the guy. I think he's going to take us deep, and I don't have a problem signing him. I really don't.
You say take Teddy Bridgewater on a deal. I mean, are you thinking a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal? What are we talking here? I mean, where are you trying to get it to? Because for me, if you're going to spend that kind of money on Teddy Bridgewater, $7+ million a year is probably what he's going to get. That's a rookie deal in the 1st round. And I'm not saying take a quarterback, but if you're going to spend that kind of money, you might as well lock him up for 5 years or 4 years versus, 1 or 2 with a pretty high price tag, who's an aging quarterback as well.
And I agree with you, but I think what it comes down to, Will, is that you've got to gamble here, because you can take a quarterback, whether it be Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Bryce Young, Bryce Young, Will Levis, I think are going to be gone right away myself. I think even Anthony Richardson will be. He's the one if we were going to take a quarterback, I would want Richardson, because the dude's a stud. I just see what he did at the combine, the way he played in college. I mean, great quarterback. You could stash him. You could do.
You'd have to stash him. Yeah, you have to stash him. He's too raw. Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem I have is that there's so many scenarios here that it's like I like them, but I don't like them. I mean, for one, you take Anthony Richardson, you stash him behind Goff. What happens if Goff? Let's just say Goff takes us to the Super Bowl, win or lose. What do? Do you pay Goff at that point and just keep Richardson on the bench and let him learn, and then risk losing him because Goff just keeps lighting it up? Or do you take Richardson, and obviously if Goff completely blows it this year, and then you put Richardson in at that point because you have to? This is for as much of I think it's a good year for us in terms of draft capital, and I think what they're building, there's a lot of risk this year too. I really don't know. I mean, Will, I'm asking for help on this one. Like, honestly, in this situation, what do you do?
So here's where I'm at. I'll give you my take. And again, I'm not the GM, but I don't run an NFL team. But here's what I would do.
Mm-mm.
It's simple to me that Goff is the guy right now, right? And
Yes,
he's got to have a good season this season in order for the Lions to even think about an extension.
absolutely.
If the Lions, lose Goff for any considerable amount of time, a couple of games, I mean, we missed the playoffs by one game. So if Goff goes down and we lose a couple of games, that could be the difference of making the playoffs and then Goff coming back to finish off the season, or not making the playoffs, and then it doesn't matter.
Right.
I think if you bring in a quarterback this season that, is that potential to be your next starter, that kind of sends shockwaves a little bit through Goff. And it's going to give him some pressure that he really doesn't need. It's not warranted pressure that I think would be advised. But if you put in a capable backup, like your Teddy Bridgewater or somebody else that can actually manage the offense and step in and do a good job, you do need that. The Lions do need a capable backup to lead them and somebody that can take over at a moment's notice.
Yes.
So what do? I think it's a simple answer. Out of the last 20 Super Bowls, the winning team has had either a top 10 offense or a top 10 defense. And we'll get a little bit more granular than that. It's more aligned with top 6 on both sides of the ball. The Lions already had a top 5 offense last season, and it should get better on paper in 2023. You bring in Montgomery, who on paper is equal to or better than Jamal Williams. You've got Jameson Williams, who didn't get a shot last year really to do much, didn't show us very much, but on paper, he's supposed to be one of the best.
I think he's going to light it up this year, but I digress.
Even if he's average, even if he's, 800 yards and, 6 touchdowns, I think that it's going to help. I think Amon-Ra has cemented that he's the number one wideout until he's not.
Absolutely.
The Lions need to find, a bigger target. But where I'm going with this is, don't forget Marvelous Marvin coming back. I mean, the guy doesn't drop a ball.
I like that. Actually, just on a side note, I was very excited that they brought Marvin Jones back. That's amazing. And another note is that after what he said, from where he was to where the team's at now, that speaks volumes, especially of a receiver his caliber to come back and say that this is a great thing they're doing. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Will.
No, you're good. You're good. So where I'm going with this, the Lions already have a top 5 or a top 5 offense on paper. Okay. We had the worst, or one of the worst ranked defenses throughout the entire season. Now, if you were to cut it in half, the first 8 games versus the last 9 games, or the first 9 games versus the last 8 games, much different team on the field in the second half. If they march into this season with that team, that defense, the second half defense that played well through the last 8 games, and you add a few core pieces, and you're now inching to that top 10 mark, this could be a Super Bowl caliber winning team. So where do I think Holmes is going now? I don't think he's going heavy with a quarterback. I think he's going to try to build this defense, and he's going to build it early, and he's going to build it often. Where we're thin, we're still thin at cornerback. I know it doesn't sound like we are, but we are because we had Okudah with a 5th-year option in 2024 if we needed him at $11 million. That's gone, thankfully. But Chase Lucas and Cam Sutton are the only 2 signed in 2024. So this Okudah trade, where we started this conversation off with, I think has dialed Holmes back into saying, look, I brought in these 3 veterans, and they're going to mentor my young guys. I'm going to go in this draft, which is a very good draft to take some cornerbacks or defensive backs, a combination of a safety and a cornerback. Get these guys under these leaders. Yeah, they may be in 3rd, 4th, or 5th, roster spots, but they're going to be in every game. They're going to be suited up for every game. And by the way, Will Harris and everybody else that's, in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th spots, Holmes can cut bait with them and not lose anything. I think he'd be out like $27,000 by cutting, half of the DB room without the 3s that they just signed, right? So he's got very smart contracts in place. And that's why I think they're going to go defense first. And they're still going to go after a cornerback or a defensive back, could be a safety, early. Does that mean 6? I don't know. I think that the Lions' best option is to trade back if you're going to want to grab a cornerback, but you got to stay in the top 12. So to wrap this up and hand it over to you, Holmes is going defense. Okay, he's going defense because everybody knows defense wins championships. You've already got a great offense assembled. They can pluck a couple of great offensive pieces in the second round, the third round, even an A.T. Perry, a Wheaton, or something like that in the third round. Phenomenal receivers. We still need a big receiver. That's going to be one to go out and get. Bijan Robinson, you could probably snag him at 18. I wouldn't be afraid of taking him at 6. I know that's an unsexy pick, but you put Bijan Robinson on this team, you're instantly a much better team, especially somebody like that behind David Montgomery and those two working together as a dual backfield. It's going to spell trouble for every defense out there. But let me hand it over to you for a second. So that's where I'm going. I'm going defense. I think Holmes is still going defense. I don't think it's Jalen Carter. I really don't, but that doesn't mean it's not. Dan and Brad both said that they can get away with one bad apple on the team, and that might be the one. Depends if he aced his test or not with them. So I'll turn it over to you with that. That's my take for the night.
Well, I think I still stand by what I said. I think this needs to go defense heavy. I think I'm going to stand firm. I really stand firm. I think it needs to be Will Anderson as another. I think you need to put another edge rusher, another defensive end on the other side of Aiden.
So where do you get Will Anderson? Where are you going to get him? You're going to have to move up? Because if that's the guy you want, if you're Holmes and that's the guy you want,
you have to move up. And I mean, I know that that's not something you want to do. I mean, if you want to move up, then you'd have to trade away. You would almost, I think, have to trade away your 6th and 18th pick in the first round, maybe even whatever we have in the second round. And that's a lot. And I that's more of a fantasy for me, because that's more of a do what you need to do, get Will Anderson. But the Jalen Carter at 6, see, that's one I wouldn't hate it. I don't think I'd be mad about it. I would just be disappointed, because then at that point, if you were going to take Jalen Carter at 6, then at that point, I think then you really need to think about maybe another quarterback instead. Maybe you need to go that route. This is why, I'm sorry, this is why I'm having a hard time with the position we're in. It's a good position. We're in a win now position. And I'm not saying to do it at all costs, but the players I would want, you'd have to sell the farm to, like Will Anderson, you might have to sell the farm to get him. Well, I don't want to see it happen,
I don't think so. I think that there's a real potential that Will Anderson slips to 6, but
which
that
would be phenomenal.
But that would take a lot of things to happen. It's gonna have to take somebody like what I think the Commanders are gonna do is try to move up into the top 4. I think the Commanders want that 4th or 3rd spot to grab their quarterback. They are a team. The Titans are the same thing. I think the Titans are ready to move up, to grab a quarterback. So if either one of those two scenarios play out and somebody else leapfrogs the Lions, well, that could be a potential of 4 quarterbacks going off, in the first 4 picks. I don't think but one of them should be a top 5 pick. This is a terrible draft class for quarterbacks. Early, first rounders, terrible. Let's call it for what it is. Richardson, too raw. Less than 2 seasons played. Stroud, less than 2 seasons played. Young, 2 seasons played. They're all Stroud. Raw. Stroud is he's anxious behind the line. He makes a lot of mental errors, but he is the most polished. Bryce Young, he's just small. Small quarterbacks just have not been very successful. Baker Mayfield, Drew Brees is 6 foot. You can't count him. Doug Flutie. Who am I missing here?
Kyler Murray's another short one.
And he hasn't had tremendous success. He got overpaid, but he hasn't had tremendous success yet either. But if you look at the last 20, 30, 40 years, there's been 2 or 3 under 6 foot quarterbacks that have done anything or nothing. So they just don't succeed in the NFL. And they have it. Your prototypical size in the NFL is 6 foot 2.5 inches. That's your prototypical size in the NFL for a quarterback, not 5'10".
With rare exception of a Drew Brees. That's pretty much about it.
But he's 6 foot. Yeah, he's 6 foot, though.
Yeah, but it's still, that's by quarterback standards. But
Russell Wilson was the one that I was missing. So, and he had instant success, and that was it. Yeah,
he did. He did. And I'll tell you right now, I got a hot take for you real quick. What do you think about the Cardinals selecting a quarterback at 3 because they realized they made a big mistake with Kyler?
I think
that
the
would
Cardinals
be a game changer.
That would be a game changer, but here's the deal. Then that means you're going to be taking probably Will Levis or AR at that point, right? And in my opinion, Will Levis is a huge gamble. He's technically sound, but he needs a lot of work too. But the kid can't even drink milk. So everybody that sees this, if you're going up against Will Levis, just hang "We Got Milk" sign in the stands, and he's probably going to run off the field. So no, I'm not taking Will Levis. If the kid can't, he gets sick after the sight of looking at milk. I watched him on a YouTube the other day eating bananas with the skin on. I mean, just not my guy. He just rubs me the wrong way. But everyone does their own little things. That's just one that tells me that maybe he's not going to be able to handle an NFL type of, pressure, when it comes down to it, if you can't even handle milk.
So, it's a strange little variation on what Aaron Rodgers does in his spare time.
Yeah, but he takes herbal things to put him in that situation though. And I think he drinks milk.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So where am I at on these quarterbacks? I'm very low. Where am I high on these quarterbacks is with Hendon Hooker. And everyone will tell me, well, he's old. And I'll say, well, that's because he played 5 seasons of college football. And he's the most mentally ready of any of them. His ACL injury is not a concern. He's not a run-first quarterback. He was in a very terrible offensive schematic system, so he will need some time. But with his age and his maturity level and his skill set and his mechanic and technique, he's pretty much dialed in. He just needs to learn the schemes. He needs to learn a new offensive system. But he is a systems guy, and he will be able to pick it up. Somebody like that, to me, if the Lions were to take somebody like that and blow a second-round pick because you're not going to get him in the 3rd round, I'm okay with that. That is somebody I wouldn't mind taking. You got him locked up for 4 seasons. Someone that can sit behind Goff. His contract will be cheap at that point. So, yes, take a Hendon Hooker in the 2nd round. Take a Stetson Bennett in the 4th or the 5th. Take a Max Duggan in the UDFA or the 6th or the 7th. That 5th round pick that they just got for Okudah, which is where we started the conversation, is going to be invaluable for the Lions to find a quarterback to get behind Goff. I don't think that they're going to need to take one early. I think that they're pretty much set on Goff until Goff, it's his job until he loses it. It's not his job to win it anymore. It's his job when he plays bad, but they're going to give him a leash too. Look what happened in 2022. He had no weapons. There's no way he could have succeeded. You put some weapons around him in 2023, he did just fine. You're going to give him more weapons in 2022, give more weapons in 2023, he's going to do even better. You're behind a top 5, top 7 offensive line, he's going to be able to play well. So where are we going with this? We started with Will Anderson at 3, and how are people going to get him? I think if someone bites on Jalen Carter and if somebody moves up to take a quarterback, well, then that's 5 guys off the board. Lions are going to be able to get Anderson at 6.
I hope so.
I'd rather see him trade back. I'd rather see him not take Will Anderson, and maybe they go after a Tyree Wilson, who the Lions do have a really good grade on. They're grading Wilson pretty high. So, you could get him at 10, 12, maybe 14. So why not take a trade back, gain some draft capital, another 1st-round pick for next season, where you could take a Caleb Williams or somebody else next season and stash them and get rid of Sudfeld. And now you've built your team around 2 rookies in 2 years. That's how I would build it out.
And I don't have a problem with that. I'm going to stand firm on what I'm saying. I do not want to see a quarterback taken in the 1st round period. I think that's the part I haven't touched on, is that I've really I've kind of come off as if I'm against a quarterback at all. I'm not against taking a quarterback by any means, because Sudfeld, we don't need to talk about that one. Sudfeld is not a backup we need. Bridgewater, you're right. I agree with you. I wasn't thinking correctly on that one. Bridgewater, I think, would be good, but he's going to command pretty decent salary because he's a veteran. I have no problem taking a quarterback, but I think you wait till the third round. There's always going to be someone out there in the third round, like you said, the Stetson Bennett, Hendon Hooker. Sorry, Will. I know we talked about this. I have an opposite opinion of him than you do, and I'm not saying that your points are wrong or bad. I'm just like anyone else. I think you and I have agreed a lot on this stuff in this conversation. That one I wouldn't take Hendon Hooker.
So why do you dislike Hooker? What's your deal with Hooker?
A lot of it is, I mean, I got to look at the shelf life of any position in the NFL. And when I'm looking at a quarterback, I'm almost kind of looking at a quarterback the same way that I look at maybe a running back, in the sense that you have to take them when they're young, develop them when they're young. To me, Hendon Hooker now, he's 25. I know you made the point to say, oh, people say he's old. To me, he is old. He is old by NFL standards, because he's going to be coming into this league. He's going to be a backup. He's coming off a blown bad knee. The same can be said about Jamo Williams, but Jameson Williams is younger, and there's a risk taking him too with the knee injury. We'll see how that goes. We don't know yet. But
dude, if 25 is old, then I'm a dinosaur. At 25, I definitely wasn't old.
I'm talking strictly NFL playing career, not as a human being in general. There's a distinction there, my friend.
Sure.
And you know this. That means we're both dinosaurs there.
Yeah. Finish your point, and I won't interrupt you again. I promise.
Don't. Hey, we got to have a little bit of back and forth, so it's all good, buddy. I just feel that 25 years old with that knee, he's already, and then now he's going to come in as a backup. He is a systemic quarterback. Now you got to relearn. He's got to relearn the system that the Lions have. Not saying he can't learn it, but who knows mentally what kind of fast learner he could be. By the time he learns this system, and maybe by the time he has a shot to be even a starter, then we're looking at 27, maybe 28 years old. I mean, you've got Goff, who's 27, 28. He's already an established quarterback, been to a Super Bowl. Everyone needs to stop this point. I don't care if he lost a Super Bowl. He made a Super Bowl. It's a lot to say, more to say than a lot of quarterbacks that are overpaid in the NFL right now. I digress. I'm just not going to gamble on a pick and taking Hendon Hooker. I'd rather take Stetson Bennett, or, to me, he's younger.
I think Bennett's 25 too.
I'd have to look at that one, Will. I don't think he's that old already. And if he is, if he's that old, then you know what? Then maybe I got to take back the way I feel about the older quarterbacks. But
well, let me throw this at you.
Okay.
So when you look at the last, let's say 7 drafts, we'll go back to 17.
You're right, by the way. Sorry.
Stetson Bennett's 25.
Yeah, he's born in 97. So yeah.
So we'll go back to 2017. There's only been 2 quarterbacks that have been drafted that have done what they've done, Mahomes and Burrow. Okay.
Right.
So out of the last, 5-6 seasons, okay, there's been 2 first-round drafted quarterbacks that have done anything. So all of those other quarterbacks are doing what while they're not doing anything? Aging. So it's taking them 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, second contract. They haven't done anything. So if they haven't done it at 21 and they still haven't done it at 24, 25, then why would it matter that you're coming into the league at 25 when nobody else really has been able to get it much earlier, except for a few rarities? And we're talking iconic rarities with Mahomes and what Burrow is about to be. So when I look at age, it doesn't really matter to me. When you look at shelf life of a player, any shelf life for an NFL player is less than 5 seasons. I think the average NFL tenure is 3 seasons or 3.5. So I look at a shelf life of 1 contract. Isn't the ultimate goal to not get rid of Goff? Isn't the ultimate goal to just let him continue to bring us into better season after better season, playoff after playoff, Super Bowl appearance at some point, right? So who cares how many quarterbacks we bring in over the next 5, 6, 7 years? A lot of these quarterbacks are taking care of their bodies in a different way. The rules have changed. They're not beaten up as much. So they're playing until the mid-30s. That means Goff has probably another 5, 7, 9 seasons left in him at least, if he wants to go that far. He may win a Super Bowl or two and say, peace, I'm out. I did what I wanted to do. That happens. He may not be an Aaron Rodgers. What is he, 39, or a Tom Brady at 45, or how old Tom is? I mean, again, opposite end of the spectrum, more rarities. So you got some guys that'll play 20 years. You got some guys that'll play 3. So when I look at it from, like you said, the age coming in, being a little bit elevated, I don't really care because I want Goff to stay. I don't mind if the Lions pay him $45 million as long as he's producing at some point, right? So you're paying Goff 26 this year, 26 next year. If you pay him 45 in 2025 and beyond, so what? Is he getting you the results that you need? Because that's all that matters is wins and losses. And then if you're stashing quarterbacks behind him, hopefully they never hit the field. That would be a great thing to happen for any team, is that backup never has to see the field other than preseason. So, or warm-ups in practice. That's about it. But go ahead. What are you going to say?
I got to ask you this. So 2 questions. The first one's a quick answer, hopefully. The next one is something I've always wondered. First of all, so you're dead on arrival on the Lamar Jackson thing then. Tell me yes.
What do you mean dead on arrival? Like,
meaning
I don't want him?
You don't want him here, right?
No. And the quick answer on that one is he's not going to fit Ben Johnson's offense, and there's no way in heck they're going to revamp an entire offense in one season with potentially Ben Johnson's last season in Detroit. So that would just be idiotic for Ben Johnson, for the Lions, and for Lamar. So the answer is no way, no how, not needed. $50 million a year for somebody that hasn't shown the ability to lead and win. I mean, no way.
1 MVP season. That's what everyone is hung up on. I don't even want to make it this way, but it drives me nuts that everybody's hell-bent still on signing Lamar Jackson to the Lions, when the point I've always made from the start is that if he's this good, if everyone thinks he's this just almighty talent quarterback, why is everyone not running to the podium saying, we want him, we're going to sign him, we got him, whatever he wants? Why? So that was yeah.
Let me tell the audience, welcome to the off-the-cuff version, because that's what you're getting tonight. You're getting the off-the-cuff version of Arizona Andy and Will with the Rocked On Detroit Lions. So we're kind of all over the place in our talking points tonight. There's been a lot to talk about. So go ahead and repeat your question for me.
So my question is, Lamar Jackson, is that deal for you dead on arrival, Will?
Because it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, because
so the deal.
That one at all. Nope.
Yes, the deal for me would be totally different if he wasn't commanding so much money and commanding a contract that is so egregious. I mean, he was looking for $230+ million fully guaranteed. And the way that I broke it down in an article was, okay, Tom Brady made $329 million over 20 years. He didn't break $35 million in a single season, and it was $39 million until about 3 seasons ago when he signed his first deal, I think, with Tampa Bay. So somebody that goes out and wins 7 rings, again, another rarity, played a ton of seasons in the NFL. He wanted his team to have money to find the players to go out and win. He cared more about winning than he did money. What comes by winning? Sponsors, advertisers, shoe deals, clothing deals, whatever, right? A $50 million a year contract from wherever he's working now. Was it CBS, I think, or no, ABC?
Yeah,
like
one of
the big 3.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's where the money comes for you. Is later on in life. So why would somebody like Lamar be able to even command that kind of money when he hasn't won anything? Win a Super Bowl, and then maybe you should be able to get that money. And maybe that should be a new NFL rule. You don't get a max contract until you win a Super Bowl.
Well, we know that won't happen, because you know what happened then? Then you're going to get those owners and those teams. They're going to be crying about how they can't possibly sign a player to that, but that's not going to happen again, because I think the whole Deshaun Watson thing with that guaranteed contract, that's what messed this whole thing up anyway for guys like Lamar. But regardless, I would never pay Lamar that kind of money, because to me, I look at Lamar Jackson like I look at Dak Prescott, which is, how are you getting that type of money? What have you done? You've done nothing. What Dak Prescott, what has he done in this league that honored him the type of deal that, well, he is playing for Jerry Jones, so I get that, but
the Cowboys, they're a unique franchise. Prescott is he's Tony Romo number 2.
Oh, Tony Romo 2.0.
Yeah, he looks good, talks good game. He is a good quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback. He's not going to take that team to the next level.
No, he's not.
And that's just the way it's going to be for the Dallas Cowboys until he's gone, until maybe they move on and find their next quarterback of the future. So
maybe.
So let's bring this back to the Detroit Lions in the draft, and let's kind of finish up with where are the Lions the most needy in this draft? And I think that you put it in a few pots. Okay, we talked about the defensive edge. And I do believe that is an area that they could add an upgrade. They had a lot of success bringing James Houston down, and up onto the line. They had great success. If they would have started him in the beginning of the season or a few more games in, whatever the case may be, they would have had more success. They possibly could have won a couple more games. They needed that change of pace outside threat. Now, do they need somebody that can play in that position on all 3 downs? They do. Can James Houston do that? Probably. Are they going to let him? Probably not. So that's yet to be seen. Does that mean that you grab another edge? So then who's out? At this point, I think that they can make room with everybody they have by taking another edge. But defensive line is where I feel they are the thinnest for playmakers. Aleem McNeil is a big body, right? But it just seems like he's lacking some size and some strength to really push the pocket and to really be a run stopper. The Lions need a run stopper. Some of the worst rushing defense in the league last season. They got gashed by Carolina, 360 some odd yards in that game. Hutchinson let up over 1,000 yards or close to 1,000. I think it was 700 yards in the first 9 games off of his edge or his gap assignment. So they do need some help. Will Hutchinson get better this season? He will. But he needs somebody on the interior that can also take the pressure off, right? Adding somebody like a Mozzie Smith, who, if the Lions can trade back and trade with somebody like the Saints, who don't have a pick till 29, they would love to jump up to 18. Mozzie Smith might be there. To me, he's the best freakish athlete in this draft class for the defensive lineman, next to Jalen Carter, but I think he's going to be less risky. Now, I know people are going to say, hey, oh, he had the gun thing or whatever. Miscommunications can be what they be. That one I can live with because it was a one-time thing. It was something very unique. It got handled the right way. He already had his license coming in the mail for the weapon. He just shouldn't have had it out. Shouldn't have had it on him 2 days early. He's a young kid. He jumped the gun on that one, literally. So, but Mozzie Smith, the guy works out with 325. These guys are benching 225 in the combine. That's why he threw up 34 plus reps. His unique ability to break through the line and stop the run is something I haven't seen in a long time. Jalen Carter took 40% of the plays off last season. Why? I think we saw why at his pro day. Overweight, out of shape, sucking wind, not ready.
That's why I wouldn't take him.
You're a top 5 pick and you're not ready for the pro day that you picked those skills to do or to show off, and you're not ready. Mozzie Smith was ready. So I think the Lions are going to address defensive line a little bit later. I think end of the first round, they find somebody like a Mozzie. If they take him at 18, I wouldn't be mad. No. The guy's a phenomenal player, but I think 18's way high. And then so second, I think they're going to go out. Or thirdly, they're going to have to get deeper in the cornerback room. But if they were to address all 3 of those positions in the top 5 picks, they're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of where they were last season.
Oh, God, yeah.
They need to find another bigger target for a wide receiver. And they may do that by, was it Darnell Washington, the tight end, the big monster, 6'7" monster.
Brock Wright was good too.
Yeah, and the Brock Wright's good, but he's not a huge behemoth of a man that's also a blocking specialist. Brock Wright's known to be a good blocker, but not like this Washington kid. I think Washington's a little bit slow. I think he's going to be a phenomenal end zone threat. He'll be a taller target. He'll eat up linebackers all day long. But he's somebody that's going to open huge rushing lanes for you all day long, for these running backs. So that's the only tight end where I could see that they might have to take early is somebody like that. I don't want them to take a tight end early, but
so that's you just give Penei Sewell some more targets this time.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? That was an exciting time.
That was amazing.
So I think that's where the Lions need to focus, is they need to focus on the defense. I'd love to see Bijan on this team, but I'm also happy if they found a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Tank Bigsby a little bit later.
I like Tank a lot, actually.
I would love to see a Mozzie Smith on this team. I'm okay with a Tyree Wilson. There you're talking first and second round guys. Some of the later round guys, Javon Dexter is one that I've had on my list since December. Mozzie List I've had on my list since December. So both of those guys went from Mozzie, a third round projection, now into the late first, early second. Javon Dexter was a late fourth, early fifth round projection. He's probably going to go in the top 65, top 70. And when I compare a Javon Dexter to a Will Anderson, I'm telling you, I'm not seeing much difference. Yeah, they're going up against different opponents, but I'm not seeing much difference on tape. And when you compare their measurables and you compare what they do in a combine, why wouldn't you want to take somebody a little bit later and find that diamond that Holmes is so good at unearthing? But the fun part about it is we don't have to make these picks.
No, we don't.
We get to watch them. We get to watch them perform.
We get to talk about them like this. We get to make our guesses, what we want, what we think we need. But at the end of the day, in 2 weeks, I won't deny it, though. In 2 weeks, Will, when I'm watching this draft, I will be biting my nails a little bit because of this mysterious smokescreen game that Holmes is playing. I mean, yeah, maybe he's fooling other teams and other GMs, which is great. But you and I, as people talking about it, as media and also as fans, it's making me nervous, but in a good way. Like, it just makes me wonder, what are we going to look like when the draft is done going into next season? That's where it gets exciting for me. So, yeah.
And by the way, folks, we're going to be doing the draft live. We're going to be watching the whole first round on Thursday night. We're going to be talking about the draft picks and each team and how we feel that they're going to help out that team for that season. It's going to be super exciting to have 2 Lions picks at 6 and 18, or wherever those picks end up. We might end up with 3 in the first round. We might end up with 1 in the first round. We might end up with none.
Who knows?
We don't know. So I hope you guys enjoyed our little off the cuff tonight. The Okudah trade is helping Brad Holmes assemble the team that he needs. He's setting the tone with an identity that you're not going to be a first round draft pick and come into this den and not perform. He went out and signed the Den of Doom that I call it by this, the Gardner Johnson, the Mosley, and the Sutton signings. He's going out and addressing, an entire area, an entire group all at once. And that's why I feel he's going to continue that path in the draft. He may not take 6 different position groups, but again, and I forgot to talk about like the 4th rounder Mafi. That's where you're going to find that guard. People want to take Torrance at 18. I think that's a huge waste of a pick when we need to go defense.
Don't do it.
I would love to have that Quentin Johnston, on the team, or Jalen Hyatt, or JSN. I'd love to have somebody like that. But the Lions need a taller threat. A Wheaton and A.T. Perry. You can get those guys in the late second, early, late third. They're going to be there. So why waste an early pick on the strength of your team when you need to address the defense, right? So
I think the defense heavy first, everyone. Remember that. And Will, you got to remember, Lions fans aren't used to this. They're not. I'm touching on your point from when the show started. Lions fans, myself included, I know you, we're not used to having a regime that's actually thinking about the team and making the correct moves. And sometimes I wonder if their minds are so colluded and clouded from the past that this is something they're not used to yet. I know I'm not used to it, but I'm loving it. And I hope everyone else jumps on board with it too, because I trust the Holmes plan. And I think everybody else needs to. That's
the other acronym that was dropped this year, called SOLF, SOLF. Not the same old Lions. It's the same old Lions fans.
Yes.
They just can't get it out of their head that this team is going somewhere. And by God, if we drafted a tight end in the first round, it's going to be just like the last ones. Well, I feel that way. There's not been one tight end. I looked at the research. Outside of Greg Olsen in the last 20 seasons, Greg Olsen has been the only one that's been pretty darn good. Outside of that, there's been no first-round tight ends that have done well at all.
No.
So why waste the pick? If it doesn't work, if history tells you anything, and that's one other thing that I didn't say tonight. Is Brad Holmes the new Moneyball? Is he the new Moneyball of the NFL? Taking a bite off the MLB Moneyball, system and turn it into the NFL Moneyball system, because the guy's gambling with a lottery that I've never seen before. I mean, he started the offseason with about 23 million in capital, right? And now we got more.
Yeah.
And we just signed a bunch of guys. So he just replenished his cap. The guy's just making moves that boggle your mind, sending smoke signals, dropping seeds.
Exactly.
That's what he does. So,
and the Ford family. See, and again, this is something, that the Lions fans don't get. The Ford family, yes, they traditionally, since their ownership started in the early 60s, what is happening now is not what they've done. And again, Will, my biggest issue too, I think, with Lions fans are that because they've been let down so many times before. I mean, no, I was victim to it when the whole Quinn Trisha error, I meant to say era, but I will call it an error now.
There you go.
I bought into it because I admit I bought into the hype that, you know what, we're getting a Belichick boy in here, we'll be fine. Well, I don't need to go into how that worked out because we all know. But the point is, I think I wonder sometimes if people are still hung up on what happened with Quinn Trisha and everything that happened before that. Now we have somebody who's finally the complete opposite. And again, and I think the fear everyone has, Will, and I think you and I have touched on this once or twice before, is that if this doesn't work and we fail again, that's what everybody, I think, is really afraid of, because it's been decades and years. Again, I bring this up, and I'll try to stop. I'm sorry, but Will, I've talked to you about my mother, who is 74 years, lifelong Lion fan. Even she will say, if this fails, I'm used to it. This is what happens as a Lions fan. My mom is coming around because even she finally has faith now. But
we'll see what happens. Though.
It's
different. It's a different feeling. It's a different Motown. It's a different Den of Doom. It's the Detroit Lions. And they're finally getting back to the kind of the old black and blue days. They're really trying to develop something that, these Lions want to come on the field and roar in your face, and they want to take it from you. They want to make you bleed. They want to make you hurt. And that's fun, and it's exciting, and they're doing it in a classy way. They're not out there to, hurt somebody intentionally, but they want to make you feel it, that you were there. And that's the excitement that this team has been missing, is these guys want to run through you.
Yes.
They don't want to just, I might make a tackle. I might just kind of hit you with my shoulder or make a body move. No, they're running through you. And that's the difference of a Dan Campbell putting this team on his shoulder, doing up downs with them on the field in practice, and showing them, look, guys, you want to win? This is how you got to play. I posted the video today. It's Dan Campbell's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Dan.
Happy birthday.
So, the funny thing is I posted his video today of some of his highlights. And you watch that guy play, he's the epitome of grit. I mean, he's hustling and bustling and making moves, making blocks. He's doing everything that he can, and he's excited every second that he's on the field. And that energy is, and I hate to use the term loosely, but it's infectious. You know what I mean? Either bad energy or good energy is going to affect a locker room. And the more good energy you bring, the better result you're going to get from it, right? So that's the excitement that Dan's bringing to this team. And Brad Holmes is just the mastermind pulling no punches at trying to bring in everybody and anybody he can to make the team better. They set out this season to do one thing, and that was get better. That's all they wanted to do. They're getting better.
They are.
Now we just want to get 2 impact players out of this draft. they're going to be able to get that with 5 picks in the first 81. I think they'll probably get 5 impact players if they stick with those picks.
I think so.
So where are we headed in 2023? It's yet to be seen. Let's let the draft talk for us, and we'll figure it out then. What do you got left to say for us tonight, Andy? Close us out.
I gotta say thanks so much for joining us tonight. Our very first off the cuff podcast. Thanks for giving Will and I a bit of your time tonight. And go Lions, defend the den. And I'm looking forward to the draft and for the 2023 season. It's gonna be a fun year, everybody. Go Lions.
Well, thanks for that, Andy. And yes, everybody, thank you so much for giving us your time today. A little bit of information. So the website's launching here over the next couple of weeks. You're going to be able to find us at rockedon.com. The full website name is rockedonpodcastnetwork.com, but rockedon.com, make it nice and simple. We're going to be launching a merch store. You'll be able to get officially licensed merchandise. We're going to be launching some content, some daily articles and columns by myself, truly. And I love it. I love the Lions. I love what we're doing now, and we're bringing you the news, and we're bringing you our opinions. And we want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Leave us some comments. Go to Rocked On Detroit Lions on Facebook. Go to Rocked On Podcast Network on YouTube and Instagram. Give us a like and a share. You want to support us? That's how you can do it. We're going to continue, guys, to bring you the energy every week. So that's all for us tonight. So we'll talk to you all later. Next time.
Hang loose all. Good night.